What's preventing you from making a move? Is it dread, question, or only sitting tight for the ideal second? Here is reality. There is no such thing as the ideal second. In this book recording, How to Power Yourself to Make a Move, you'll gain the devices to break liberated from pardons, conquer dawdling, and assume command over your life. Activity is generally difficult. However, it's the main way to advance and achievement. Let this be your manual for push past wavering, gather speed, and open the relentless rendition of yourself. An opportunity to act is presently, on the grounds that your future relies upon what you do today. Section 1. Figuring out the significance of making a move. Making a move is the underpinning of each and every example of overcoming adversity. Without it, dreams stay simply that, dreams. You could have large thoughts, excellent plans, or grandiose objectives. Yet without activity, they stay to you, never turning into a reality. Consider activity the motor that controls your excursion. Regardless of how definite your guide or how strong your vehicle, you will not go anyplace without turning the key and turning over the motor. Making a move changes considerations into results, and, surprisingly, the littlest advances can prompt great changes after some time. Many individuals wonder whether or not to act since they believe they aren't prepared or dread they could fizzle. Yet, here's reality. There won't ever be an ideal second to begin. Hanging tight for the ideal opportunity frequently prompts vast deferrals and botched open doors. Activity, even defective activity, makes energy. At the point when you venture out, regardless of how little, you assemble certainty and make progress. Each step in the right direction shows you a novel, new thing, changes your course, and carries you nearer to your objectives. Making a move likewise separates you. A great many people stall out in the pattern of overthinking or sitting tight for motivation. By acting, you break liberated from that cycle and push forward. It's quite difficult 100% of the time. Questions, fears, and difficulties will emerge. In any case, each choice to act reinforces your assurance and fabricates your flexibility. The significance of making a move isn't just about accomplishing results. About fostering the mentality and propensities keep you developing, learning, and pushing ahead. Activity isn't simply a stage. It's the start of change. Part 2. Distinguishing what's keeping you down. We, as a whole, have objectives we need to accomplish. Yet, something frequently holds us back from moving forward. To conquer these hindrances, the initial step distinguishing's keeping you down. These impediments aren't clear all of the time. They can be unpretentious, profoundly instilled propensities, or even feelings of trepidation that work just underneath the surface. Carve out opportunity to think about your everyday ways of behaving and contemplations. Ask yourself, what prevents me from following up on my objectives? This mindfulness is the way to breaking free and pushing ahead. One of the most widely recognized impediments is dread. Feeling of dread toward disappointment, apprehension about judgment, or even anxiety toward progress can make a psychological detour that prevents you from acting. These feelings of trepidation frequently come from previous encounters or envisioned results. For instance, you could try not to seek after another open door since you're apprehensive about rehashing an error you made previously. While these apprehensions feel genuine, they're much of the time overstated by your psyche. By recognizing and naming them, you venture out in diminishing their control over you. Keep in mind, dread flourishes peacefully. Yet, when you defy it, it starts to lose its hold. Another central point keeping individuals down is self-question. Considerations like, I'm not sufficient, I don't have the stuff, or I won't ever succeed, make a psychological wall among you and your objectives. Self-question isn't an impression of your actual capacities. It's a story you tell yourself, frequently impacted by past analysis or correlations with others. Fortunately, you can change this story. By zeroing in on your assets, celebrating little wins, and testing negative self-talk, you can start to destroy one's self-uncertainty that has been keeping you stuck. Finally, interruptions and absence of clearness frequently ruin progress. In a world loaded up with vast notices, obligations, and contending needs, it's not difficult to neglect to focus on the main thing. Some of the time we stay occupied with low-need errands to try not to stand up to the activities that really count. Different times we come up short on clear vision of what we need, so we meander capriciously as opposed to taking deliberate actions. To defeat this, emphasis on explaining your objectives and taking out superfluous interruptions. Make a reasonable, noteworthy arrangement and focus on what genuinely lines up with your goals. By tending to these hindrances head-on, you make the way for predictable activity and significant advancement. Part 3. The science behind inspiration and activity. Understanding the science behind inspiration and activity can assist you with opening the way to conquering dormancy and accomplishing your objectives. At its center, inspiration is driven by the mind's prize framework, which discharges dopamine, a synthetic that powers sensations of delight and fulfillment when we expect or accomplish something fulfilling. Notwithstanding, inspiration alone isn't sufficient to push us forward. Making a move requires understanding how to overcome any barrier between needing something and really doing it. One of the most entrancing parts of inspiration is what it's meant for by little wins. Research shows that even minor achievements trigger a dopamine discharge, making a pattern of inspiration and progress. For example, scratching off an undertaking on your plan for the day can provide you with a pride that urges you to handle the following one. For this reason, separating bigger objectives into more modest, sensible advances is so powerful. By zeroing in on accomplishing little wins reliably, you make a force that drives activity and keeps you spurred. Another basic element is the job of propensities in making a move. Inspiration is frequently momentary. It travels every which way relying upon conditions. This is where propensities step in. At the point when you incorporate schedules and designs into your life, you lessen the need to depend on inspiration alone. For instance, setting a particular time every day to deal with an objective makes a propensity, making activity programmed. After some time, your mind revamps itself to connect these schedules with positive results, lessening the work expected to begin. The science likewise uncovers that delaying isn't about lethargy. It's a survival technique for staying away from gloomy feelings. When confronted with errands that vibe overpowering or questionable, the mind's sense is to safeguard itself by looking for surefire solace. For example, looking at web-based entertainment or staring at the television. Understanding this can assist you approach hesitation with self-empathy as opposed to dissatisfaction. Rather than zeroing in on the whole errand, focus on beginning one little part. This breaks the pattern of evasion and makes a feeling of progress. Feeling assumes a critical part in inspiration and activity. Positive feelings, for example, fervor and certainty, upgrade our capacity to act, while gloomy feelings, like trepidation or uneasiness, can keep us down. Nonetheless, the mind is profoundly versatile. Strategies like representation, insistences, and care can help reevaluate your profound state, moving your concentration from deterrence to open doors. At the point when you feel better about the potential outcomes ahead, you're bound to make a significant move. At last, understanding the association between the cerebrum and activity supports the significance of consistency. The more you work on making a move, even in little ways, the more grounded the brain processes related with that conduct become. After some time, your mind figures out how to connect exertion with remuneration, making it more straightforward to make a move from here on out. By utilizing the study of inspiration and activity, you can make an economical way to deal with accomplishing your objectives and defeating the boundaries that once kept you down. Part 4 Procedures to defeat dawdling. Stalling is a test we as a whole face, yet all at once it's not inconceivable. It frequently comes from dread, overpower, or vulnerability about where to begin. To beat stalling, you really want reasonable procedures that engage you to make a move and recover control. Every one of these systems focuses on the underlying drivers of dawdling, assisting you with pushing ahead with lucidity and certainty. One of the best techniques is to break huge errands into more modest, sensible advances. When confronted with a major task, it's not difficult to feel overpowered and abstain from beginning through and through. By breaking it down, you decrease the psychological burden and cause the errand to feel reachable. For instance, rather than contemplating composing a whole report, center around illustrating only the presentation. These little advances make the assignment less scary, yet additionally give you fast wins that gather speed and inspiration. Another strong method is the 2-minute rule. This standard urges you to begin any errand by committing only 2 minutes to it. The thought is to beaten the idleness of beginning, which is in many cases the hardest part. When you start, you're bound to proceed. For instance, assuming you've been putting off working out, focus on only 2 minutes of extending. This little activity can prompt a full exercise, as the hardest boundary, beginning, has been crossed. The 2-minute rule changes delaying right into it by zeroing in on negligible exertion front and center. Time obstructing is another procedure that can assist with combating hesitation. This includes planning explicit times in your day to deal with specific errands. By dispensing a set time for every movement, you make structure and kill the dynamic interaction that frequently prompts delay. Match this with disposing of interruptions, for example, hushing warnings or making a devoted work area, and you establish a climate that energizes center. Time hindering assists you with focusing on, yet additionally guarantees that hesitation doesn't sneak in when you're uncertain what to do straight away. Reevaluating your outlook around undertakings can likewise be extraordinary. Frequently, we tarry on the grounds that we view undertakings as overwhelming or terrible. All things being equal, have a go at rethinking them as any open doors for development or difficulties to prevail. For example, rather than thinking, I need to finish this report, shift to, this report is my opportunity to grandstand my abilities. Match this rethinking with representation, envisioning the fulfillment of finishing the job, and you make a more certain relationship with the work, making it simpler to begin and remain locked in. Responsibility is a critical system for defeating stalling. Offering your objectives to a companion, partner, or guide can give outer inspiration to act. At the point when another person is familiar with your arrangements, you're more averse to defer on the grounds that you need to measure up to their assumptions. Consider bringing together with a responsibility accomplice who can monitor your advancement. Moreover, utilizing instruments like propensity trackers or applications can assist you with remaining on track by giving substantial proof of your consistency, making delaying less engaging. At long last, practice self-empathy while tending to tarrying. It's not difficult to fall into a pattern of responsibility or dissatisfaction when you defer errands. However, this makes it harder to act. All things considered, recognize the explanations for your lingering and move toward yourself with understanding. Advise yourself that stalling is a propensity, not an individual coming up short, and that it very well may be changed with time and exertion. By joining functional methodologies with a caring outlook, you can conquer dawdling and make a predictable move toward your objectives. Section 5. Making a no-reasons outlook. Reasons are the undetectable obstructions that keep us away from accomplishing our objectives. They frequently sound sensible, yet they deny us of progress, development, and achievement. To break liberated from their hold, we should develop a no-pardons mentality, an outlook where obligation to activity supersedes legitimization for inaction. This section investigates how to construct that outlook and carry on with a day-to-day existence characterized by results, not reasons. The most vital phase in making a no-pardons outlook is to perceive the reasons you make. Pardons frequently mask themselves as legitimate reasons. I don't have time, I'm not prepared, for sure on the off chance that I fall flat? These assertions might feel valid. However, they are much of the time established in dread or self-question. Begin by recognizing the reasons you rest on most often, record them on paper, and afterward challenge them. Ask yourself, are these genuinely unfavorable impediments? Or would they say they are simply helpful motivations to postpone activity? A no-pardons mentality requires assuming total ownership for your decisions. This doesn't mean faulting yourself for everything, yet rather recognizing that your activities, or absence of activities, shape your results. At the point when you take responsibility for choices, you recover your ability to change your conditions. Rather than saying, I was unable to accomplish this due to X, shift to, how might I conquer X? Obligation is the groundwork of a no-pardons mentality. Moving your concentration from issues to arrangements is another basic step. Pardons frequently feature what's going on or lacking, not sufficient opportunity, assets, or information. A no-pardons mentality flips the story by asking, how could I at any point manage what I have? This shift compels you to think imaginatively and make proactive strides, regardless of whether the circumstances aren't great. Arrangements may not be great, yet progress beats flawlessness like clockwork. Discipline assumes a focal part in killing reasons. It's not difficult to act when inspiration is high, yet discipline guarantees that you make a move in any event when you don't feel like it. Building discipline implies focusing on your objectives and completely finishing them reliably, paying little heed to outside conditions. For instance, rather than skirting an exercise since you're drained, you appear and give your very best. Over the long haul, discipline turns into a propensity that rules out pardons. To make a no-pardons outlook, you should likewise embrace inconvenience. Pardons frequently emerge when we need to stay away from awkward circumstances, whether it's apprehension about disappointment, dismissal, or exertion. In any case, development lives beyond your usual range of familiarity. At the point when you train yourself to incline toward uneasiness and make a move in spite of it, you destroy one of the greatest wellsprings of reasons. Each time you deal with distress directly, you reinforce your determination and extend your capacities. Encircling yourself with the ideal individuals can support your no-pardons outlook. Pardons flourish in conditions where they are acknowledged or energized. All things considered, search out people who challenge you to transcend your reasons and consider you responsible to your objectives. Whether it's a guide, a companion, or a gathering of similar friends, being around individuals who encapsulate a no-pardons disposition can rouse you to take on a similar methodology. Revising your inward exchange is another integral asset. Pardons frequently come from negative self-talk. I can't do this, I'm not sufficient, or it's excessively hard. Supplant these considerations with assertions that enable you. I will find a way, I'm competent, and I can deal with this. The manner in which you address yourself matters. Positive self-talk assists you with keeping fixed on arrangements as opposed to impediments, building up your no-pardons outlook. Making an arrangement of remunerations and outcomes can likewise assist you with remaining committed. Reward yourself when you finish your objectives, even in little ways, to assemble uplifting feedback. On the other side, lay out ramifications for rationalizing or not making a move. For instance, in the event that you skirt an arranged undertaking, you could give to a reason or pass up an honor you appreciate. This framework prepares your cerebrum to connect activity with remunerations and inaction with responsibility. Representation is another viable method. Picture the existence you need to make and the objectives you need to accomplish. Envision how satisfying it will feel to defeat impediments and achieve your fantasies. Then, balance that vision with the expense of remaining trapped in pardons, the botched open doors, laments, and unfulfilled potential. This psychological activity can persuade you to push past reasons and make a significant move. At last, resolve to advance, not flawlessness. Perhaps of the greatest reason individuals make is sitting tight for the ideal time or the ideal arrangement. Yet, flawlessness is a deception that keeps you stuck. A no-pardons outlook focuses on making a move currently, regardless of whether it's defective or untidy. Keep in mind, progress pushes you ahead, not hanging tight for ideal circumstances. Each step you take gathers speed and carries you nearer to your objectives. By developing a no-pardons mentality, you change the manner in which you approach difficulties and open doors. You quit permitting reasons to control your activities and begin taking responsibility for future. With this outlook, there are no restrictions to what you can accomplish. Your prosperity turns into a question of decision, driven by assurance and determined activity. Section 6. The job of discipline in driving activity. Discipline is the scaffold among expectation and activity, transforming dreams into the real world. There's really no need to focus on depending on temporary snapshots of inspiration, however, about focusing on steady exertion, paying little heed to conditions. Discipline is the power that keeps you pushing ahead when interruptions, questions, or challenges take steps to pull you off kilter. In this part, we'll investigate how discipline drives activity and how filling long-haul success can be developed. At its center, discipline is tied in with settling on decisions that line up with your objectives, in any event when those decisions are troublesome. While inspiration might motivate you to begin, discipline guarantees you continue onward. It's not difficult to make a move when you feel energized or energetic, yet discipline pushes you to act when the underlying flash blurs. This faithful obligation to your objectives is the way to accomplishing enduring outcomes. One of the main jobs of discipline is in making structure. Discipline gives a structure to your day, assisting you with distributing investment to the activities that make the biggest difference. Without discipline, it's not difficult to fall into the snare of responding to whatever comes your direction, pretty much ruling out intentional activity. By laying out schedules and propensities, discipline guarantees that your activities are deliberate and lined up with your needs. Discipline additionally assists you with conquering the inside obstruction that frequently goes with activity. Whether it's apprehension, self-uncertainty, or hesitation, we as a whole face mental boundaries that make it trying to push ahead. Discipline calms these voices, advising you that your obligation to activity is more grounded than your brief uneasiness. Each time you act notwithstanding obstruction, you assemble mental strength and build up your capacity to keep focused. One more basic job of discipline is in gathering speed. At the point when you make a steady move, even little advances, you make a compounding phenomenon that gains ground feel regular and unavoidable. Force lessens the work expected to keep up with forward movement, making it more straightforward to remain restrained. This pattern of activity and force takes care of itself, moving you nearer to your objectives as time passes. Discipline likewise ingrains a feeling of responsibility. At the point when you focus on a trained methodology, you take responsibility for activities and results. This self-responsibility assists you with remaining on track and oppose the impulse to fault outside factors for your outcomes. Discipline instructs you that achievement is inside your control, engaging you to assume complete ownership for your advancement. One of the most misjudged parts of discipline is its capacity to work on direction. At the point when you depend on discipline, you eliminate the need to continually discuss the choice about whether to make a move. For instance, assuming you focused on practicing each day, there's no doubt about whether you'll make it happen. It's essentially important for your daily practice. This clearness lessens choice weariness and permits you to channel your energy into useful activities. Discipline likewise assumes an imperative part in overseeing interruptions. In this day and age, we're besieged with vast wellsprings of amusement, data, and interferences. Discipline assists you with remaining fixed on the main thing, sifting through interruptions that don't line up with your objectives. By defining limits and adhering to them, you establish a climate where activity turns into the regular decision. One more impressive part of discipline is its effect on self-assurance. Each time you finish a responsibility, you demonstrate to yourself that you're equipped for making a move. This forms trust in your capacity to address difficulties and accomplish objectives. After some time, this fearlessness turns into a main thrust that powers much more prominent degrees of discipline and activity. At last, discipline shows you the worth of deferred delight. A large number of the most remunerating results in life require tolerance and tirelessness. Discipline permits you to oppose transient enticements for long-haul rewards. Whether it's setting aside cash, mastering an expertise, or working on your well-being, discipline guarantees that your activities today are lined up with the future you need to make. Basically, discipline is the motor that powers steady activity. It transforms expectations into results and changes potential into accomplishment. While discipline requires exertion and responsibility, the prizes it brings, clearness, energy, certainty, and progress, merit each ounce of exertion. By embracing discipline, you assume command over your activities and set before yourself a way to enduring achievement. Part 7. Utilizing little wins to gather enormous speed. Little wins are the uncelebrated yet truly great individuals of progress. They might appear to be immaterial all alone, yet when saddled accurately, they make strong force that drives you toward your bigger objectives. This part dives into the brain research behind little wins, why they matter, and how to utilize them successfully to gather relentless speed. Little wins are something beyond achievements. They are mental prizes that approve your endeavors. Each time you accomplish a little success, your mind discharges dopamine, the vibe great compound related with inspiration and joy. This uplifting feedback urges you to continue onward, making it more straightforward to support your energy and concentration over the long run. Little wins fabricate a feeling of achievement even notwithstanding bigger difficulties. One of the critical benefits of little wins is that they cause overwhelming objectives to feel sensible. At the point when you center exclusively around the higher perspective, it's not difficult to feel overpowered and uncertain where to begin. Breaking your objective into more modest, reachable errands permits you to gain consistent headway without losing all sense of direction in the tremendousness of the ultimate objective. Every little success turns into a forward-moving step, lessening the feeling of dread toward disappointment and keeping you inspired. Little wins additionally make energy, which is basic for long-haul achievement. Consider energy the power that keeps you moving whenever you've begun. At the point when you accomplish a little success, it goes about as a push that moves you to handle the following errand. This flowing impact transforms starting exertion into supported progress, making it more straightforward to keep focused and fabricate trust in your capacity to succeed. Celebrating little wins assists you with keeping a positive outlook. It's barely noticeable the significance of these triumphs, particularly when they appear to be minor with regards to a bigger objective. Be that as it may, finding opportunity to recognize and value your advancement supports your confidence in your capacities. Whether it's finishing a part of a book, completing an exercise, or adhering to a day-to-day propensity, commending these minutes keeps your spirits high and your assurance solid. Little wins additionally have the ability to reshape your self-personality. At the point when you reliably accomplish even minor triumphs, you begin to see yourself as somebody who is proficient, restrained, and useful. This change in character fortifies your obligation to your objectives as you adjust your activities to the individual you need to turn into. Little wins are not simply ventures toward an objective. They are the structure blocks of a new, enabled variant of yourself. One more significant part of little wins is their capacity to fabricate flexibility. Progress is seldom straight, and misfortunes are inescapable. Be that as it may, little wins give a support against debilitation. At the point when you center around the headway you've made, regardless of how little, it becomes more straightforward to return quickly from difficulties. Little wins advise you that, in any event, during troublesome times, you're actually pushing ahead. Utilizing little wins requires setting reasonable, significant objectives. Begin by distinguishing errands that are reachable yet at the same time require exertion. These errands ought to move you to make a feeling of achievement without being hard to the point that they lead to disappointment. For instance, rather than planning to compose a whole book in a month, put forth an objective to compose 500. These more modest targets keep you connected with and spurred. Following your little wins is one more successful method for gathering speed. Keeping a diary or utilizing an application to log your accomplishments permits you to see your improvement after some time. This visual portrayal of your endeavors builds up your responsibility and gives a wellspring of inspiration when you feel stuck. Thinking about past successes helps you to remember how far you've come and reignites your drive to continue onward. Little wins additionally assist with building propensities that lead to long-haul achievement. At the point when you center around finishing reasonable responsibilities reliably, you're bound to foster schedules that help your objectives. These propensities become programmed after some time, diminishing the work expected to keep up with progress. Little wins make propensity arrangement more receptive, transforming transient activities into enduring ways of behaving. One more method for utilizing little wins is by stacking them. Achieving one little undertaking can make the inspiration to handle another, prompting a cascading type of influence of efficiency. For instance, finishing a 5-minute exercise might move you to set up a good feast, which thus rouses you to design the following day. Each success expands on the last, making a chain response that intensifies your force. The force of little wins stretches out past individual exertion. It can likewise impact your cooperations with others. Imparting your advancement to a strong local area or responsibility accomplice makes a criticism circle of support and inspiration. At the point when others praise your little wins with you, it builds up their importance and reinforces your obligation to your objectives. Utilizing little wins to beat dread and self-question is another strong procedure. When confronted with an overwhelming test, it's not difficult to feel deadened by dread of disappointment. Little wins give proof that you are fit for making a move and accomplishing results. This gradual evidence constructs certainty and assists you with handling bigger undertakings with a feeling of confirmation. Little wins can likewise be utilized to assemble profound flexibility. By zeroing in on attainable objectives, you lessen the probability of close-to-home burnout. Each success gives a good profound lift that counters sensations of dissatisfaction or deficiency. Over the long haul, these close-to-home triumphs make a feeling of inward strength that assists you with exploring difficulties with elegance and assurance. At last, utilizing little wins requires consistency and tolerance. It's critical to perceive that significant advancement is the aftereffect of supported exertion over the long run. Little wins may not appear to be significant at the time, but rather their combined impact is extraordinary. By focusing on steady activity and commending each step in the right direction, you make a strong energy that pushes you toward your definitive objectives. In outline, little wins are the underpinning of large accomplishments. They give inspiration, gather speed, and build up your faith in your capacities. By breaking objectives into reasonable errands, praising advancement, and utilizing little wins to fabricate propensities and flexibility, you open the ability to accomplish significance with care. Little wins are verification that each activity, regardless of how little, carries you nearer to your fantasies. Section 8 Supporting Activity for Long-Haul Achievement. Supporting activity over the long haul is one of the most basic parts of making significant progress. Many individuals start solid, energized by beginning fervor or inspiration, yet they frequently battle to keep up with that energy after some time. This part investigates the methodologies and mentality shifts expected to support predictable activity, guaranteeing that you remain focused and continue to advance toward your objectives. The initial step to supporting activity is figuring out your why. Without an unmistakable and convincing purpose for your endeavors, losing motivation is simple. Find opportunity to distinguish the further reason driving your objectives. Ask yourself, what difference does this make to me? How might accomplishing this objective work on my life or the existences of others? At the point when your activities are attached to areas of strength for and of direction, it becomes simpler to remain committed in any event when difficulties emerge. Building a strong routine is one more foundation of long-haul activity. Schedules assist you with mechanizing your way of behaving, decreasing the requirement for consistent independent direction. At the point when certain activities become piece of your everyday timetable, they require less mental energy to finish. For instance, in the event that you want to work out consistently, focusing on a set time every day makes it more straightforward to see everything through to completion. Over the long run, these schedules become propensities that support your advancement easily. Consistency is a higher priority than force with regards to supporting activity. It's smarter to take little, steady advances consistently than to propel yourself excessively hard and wear out. Achievement is a long-distance race, not a run. By taking on a steady speed and zeroing in on consistent advancement, you make a supportable beat that keeps you pushing ahead without overpowering yourself. Checking your advancement is fundamental for keeping up with energy. Routinely following your accomplishments assists you with remaining mindful of how far you've come and supports your inspiration to proceed. Whether you utilize a diary, an application, or a visual tracker, seeing your improvements spread out can unbelievably rouse. It additionally permits you to distinguish designs, change your methodologies, and commend your achievements. Flexibility is vital to supporting long-haul activity. Life is capricious, and unbending plans can prompt dissatisfaction when things don't go true to form. Embrace adaptability by being willing to change your methodology when vital. Rather than considering misfortunes to be disappointments, view them as any open doors to learn and develop. Adjusting to change keeps you strong and guarantees that you can keep up with progress, paying little heed to outer conditions. Keeping a positive outlook is another fundamental part. Negative self-talk and uncertainty can drain your energy and crash your endeavors. Develop a propensity for empowering yourself and zeroing in on the upsides. At the point when difficulties emerge, help yourself to remember your assets and past triumphs. A positive mentality doesn't disregard troubles yet assists you with moving toward them with certainty and assurance. Building an emotionally supportive network is likewise critical for supporting activity. Encircle yourself with individuals who trust in you and your objectives. Companions, family, guides, or even internet-based networks can give consolation, responsibility, and viewpoint. Imparting your excursion to others assists you with remaining propelled as well as provides you with an organization of help to rest on during difficult stretches. Rest and recuperation are frequently ignored yet are fundamental for supporting long-haul exertion. Propelling yourself without enjoying reprieves can prompt burnout, which makes it harder to remain predictable. Integrate customary rest periods into your timetable to re-energize genuinely and intellectually. Rest is definitely not an indication of shortcoming. It's a system for keeping up with max operation over an extended time. Celebrating little wins is a strong method for supporting inspiration. Perceiving your accomplishments, regardless of how minor, builds up the possibility that your endeavors are paying off. These festivals don't need to be intricate. A straightforward affirmation or prize can do the trick. By zeroing in on your advancement, you construct a feeling of achievement that keeps you pushing ahead. Perception is one more compelling device for supporting activity. Routinely envisioning yourself accomplishing your objectives and partaking in the advantages can keep your inspiration high. Representation reinforces your profound association with your objectives, helping you to remember the prizes that look for you. This psychological activity additionally assists you with keeping on track and tough when confronted with obstructions. Breaking bigger objectives into more modest, sensible errands can forestall overpower and keep up with energy. Handling more modest undertakings provides you with a feeling of achievement and keeps the cycle locking in. For example, on the off chance that you want to compose a book, center around finishing each part or even one page in turn. These gradual advances make the excursion not so much scary but rather more pleasant. Responsibility assumes a critical part in supporting activity. Imparting your objectives to somebody who will consider you responsible makes a feeling of obligation. Whether it's a companion, a guide, or a responsibility accomplice, having somebody monitor your advancement urges you to remain steady. Knowing that another person is put resources into your prosperity can be a strong inspiration. Gaining from difficulties is one more basic expertise for supporting activity. Rather than allowing disappointments to put you down, dissect them to comprehend what turned out badly and how you can move along. Each misfortune is a valuable chance to refine your methodology and develop further. This outlook shift changes difficulties into venturing stones, keeping you on target toward your objectives. Remaining inquisitive and open to novel thoughts can likewise assist with supporting long-haul activity. After some time, schedules can become dreary, prompting weariness or lack of concern. Keep things new by investigating new systems, procedures, or points of view connected with your objectives. This interest keeps you connected with, yet additionally assists you with finding more compelling ways of making progress. Appreciation can act as a strong inspiration for supported exertion. Routinely considering what you're grateful for assists you with remaining grounded and positive. Appreciation moves your concentration from what you need to what you have, building up a feeling of overflow and probability. This mentality makes it simpler to remain focused on your objectives with energy and good faith. Creating self-control is fundamental for long-haul activity. Discipline permits you to make reliable strides in any event when inspiration melts away. It's the capacity to focus on your objectives over transitory interruptions or allurements. Building discipline takes time, yet every little demonstration of responsibility reinforces this expertise, making it more straightforward to remain on track over the long haul. Zeroing in on the cycle as opposed to the result can make supported activity more charming. At the point when you're too focused on the final product, becoming baffled by sluggish progress is simple. All things considered, find fulfillment in the everyday activities and endeavors you're placing in. Partaking in the excursion makes it simpler to remain drew in and committed. Ultimately, help yourself to remember your strength and potential. Supporting long-haul activity requires confidence in your capacity to conquer hindrances and accomplish your objectives. Ponder your previous accomplishments and the strength you've displayed in testing times. This self-assurance powers your assurance and keeps you pushing ahead, in any event, when the street gets extreme. By integrating these techniques into your regular routine, you can support activity and keep up with progress toward your objectives. Long-haul achievement isn't about explosions of exertion. It's about predictable, intentional activity over the long run. With the right mentality, apparatuses, and support, you can continue to gather speed and accomplish the significant, enduring outcomes you want. Much obliged to you for paying attention to how to drive yourself to make a move. Keep in mind, activity is the scaffold between your fantasies and reality. Each little step you take today carries you nearer to the existence you've without exception needed. There's actually no need to focus on sitting tight for the right second. It's tied in with making it. As you push ahead, remember this. Progress comes from consistency, not flawlessness. The ability to change your life is now inside you. Everything necessary is the fortitude to begin. So don't allow delay to keep you down. Venture out, then the following, and continue onward. Your excursion to progress begins with activity, and it begins at this moment. Thanks for watching. What is your thoughts on the video? Like, comment, and subscribe the channel.